For our last section, I want to talk about one of the most important matters in academic life. Yes, exams. So I'd love to share some tips that have really helped the students in the past, and I'm sure they will be useful for you too. First up, let's create a formula sheet. Think of it as your go-to list of key formulas, equations, and concepts you expect to see on the exam. These days, many professors let you bring a formula sheet into the exam. Some students and professors may call it cheat sheet, but I don't like this term. Start practicing your homework problems with this formula sheet nearby. The goal is to get so comfortable using these formula sheets that during the exam you can just concentrate on solving the problems. Next tip, watch out for the illusion of knowing. It is easy to feel like you understand the material when you're just reading the solutions or watching someone else solve the problems. You might think, yeah, I get it, when you see the solution steps, but the real challenge is whether you can tackle a similar problem on your own. Make sure to spend time reworking homework problems all by yourself using your formula sheet. This hands-on practice ensures you truly grasp the material, not just recognize the answers. I often joke with my students that in the exam, I won't just hand you the solution and ask if it makes sense to you. You'll need to work it out all by yourself. Another fantastic tip is to simulate the real testing environment with timed mock exams. You can create your own mock tests by selecting class examples and homework problems, or ask a friend in your study group to put one together. Or even use AI tools to generate practice questions, but please always be careful when you use AI, as it might need several iterations to prepare a reliable exam. Whenever possible, try to use open-ended questions instead of multiple choice ones. Multiple choice questions can sometimes give you a false sense of mastery because the familiar answers might trick you into thinking you know the material better than you actually do. Open-ended questions, on the other hand, push you to work through problems from start to finish, just like you'll need to do in the real exam. This approach, often called retrieval practice or quiz yourself method. Hundreds of research have shown that retrieval practice is one of the best ways for learning. I like to think of mock exams as a mirror for your knowledge. When you hold up the mirror, it clearly shows where any gaps or weak points might be, helping you recognize and address them before the real test. Now, let's go to the next strategy. I like to call this strategy the spread it out technique. Instead of cramming all your studying into one marathon session the night before an exam, break it up into shorter, more manageable chunks over several days or even weeks. This approach, also known as spaced practice, gives your brain time to rest and really absorb what you learn each time you revisit the material. Much like regularly watering a plant rather than dumping a full bucket of water on it at once. It also gives the diffuse mode of learning in your brain to do its magic. In other words, this method helps you offset forgetting the learned material. The effectiveness of this method lies in how your memory works. We have two main types of memory. The first one is the working memory. This is like a blackboard with full of material that is going to be erased soon, or like your computer's RAM. The other type of memory is the long-term memory that is similar to computer's hard drive. When you learn something new, your brain first processes it in sensory areas and holds it temporarily in working memory, primarily involving the prefrontal cortex. With repetition and practice, this information is then transferred to long-term memory by the help of hippocampus, allowing you to retain and recall it later. These chunks will be distributed in various parts of your brain. Research shows that we recall information more effectively when we revisit it at well-spaced intervals, because each revisit helps your brain find and reinforce the specific location where that information is stored. Going over a concept 10 times in one day isn't nearly as impactful as reviewing it in multiple sessions, spread it out over time. This phenomenon is illustrated by the forgetting curve proposed by German psychologist Hermann Ebbinghaus. This principle also underpins the success of language learning apps like Duolingo, which reintroduce words and grammar points repeatedly over days or weeks to help solidify them in your long-term memory. Let's go to the next item in this section. Managing your time during the exam. That is very, very crucial. One important strategy is to balance focused and diffuse thinking during the test. Do you remember that we talked about focused and diffuse learning in section 8? Now we have another version of it here when you are taking a test. If you encounter a difficult question that you cannot immediately answer, don't get stuck and waste valuable time. Instead, mark the question and move on to easier ones that you can answer confidently. Keep your composure, as getting anxious about a challenging question will only make it harder to focus on the rest of the exam. Trust in your brain's background processing power. While you work on other questions, your mind continues to make connections and process the challenging question subconsciously. When you return to skipped questions later with fresh eyes, you may find that working through other problems has triggered helpful insights or problem-solving approaches. Your brain has made new connections between concepts, and the answer that seemed out of reach earlier now feels more accessible. This approach takes advantage of how your brain naturally works. Your long-term memory continuously strengthens and rebuilds connections between different pieces of knowledge, even when you're not actively focusing on a specific problem. Remember, getting stuck on one difficult question can cost you the opportunity to earn points on several easier ones. Let me share a powerful story from my senior year when I was an undergraduate student. During my advanced mechanism design final exam, I faced a challenging question that I just couldn't solve. My roommate, who happened to be the top student in our class, was sitting next to me writing extensively for that same question. Seeing him write so confidently made me incredibly nervous. And please don't worry, I couldn't see his answers, no cheating here. But for some reason that I don't remember now, I could feel that he was answering the same question. Then I made a game-changing decision. Instead of letting his actions distract me, and even worse, make me nervous, I closed my eyes and interlocked my hands across my chest, leaned back in my chair, and tried to clear my mind completely. After about 5 to 10 minutes of this mental reset, boom, the solution just came to me. Believe me, it came to me. And you won't believe this. My entire answer was just 2 lines, just 2 lines. A funny twist after the exam. My friend confessed that he couldn't solve the problem at all. All that writing was just him randomly brainstorming. I ended up with an A- while he got a B-. Oh, and here's a crucial detail. I only had the luxury to spend those 5 to 10 minutes clearing my mind because I had already finished all the simpler questions first. I didn't let this challenging problem eat up my precious exam time at the beginning. Remember, your brain is an amazing tool. You just need to learn how to use it properly. This experience is how I discovered the power of mentally resetting during the exam. Have you ever had a light bulb moment like that? Tell me about it below. I'd love to hear your story. Let's go to the next tip. Don't hesitate to reach out to your professors. Ask if they have any old exams or practice tests they can share with you. Many professors are more than happy to provide these resources or even hold review sessions, giving you a better idea of the exam format and the types of questions that might come up. But please don't ask us how many questions are going to be in the exam. I don't like that question. Also, consider forming or joining a study group, as we covered it in section 4. Working together allows you to explain concepts to each other, which often deepens your own understanding. I repeat this, teaching something to a peer is one of the best ways to learn it well. It is always helpful to know how you're doing in a course, so if possible, ask your professors to upload your grades sooner rather than later. Keep in mind that professors often have a lot on their plates, so a little patience and a friendly reminder can go a long way. Finally, if you want to dive deeper into effective study techniques, check out these awesome videos. And if you're interested in reading, here are 3 journal papers that I can recommend. These journal papers are just a few in a very big pile of publications that have focused on cognitive methods for studying and learning. I hope these tips help you feel more prepared and confident for your exams. Remember, studying smarter, not harder, is the key to success. Let's summarize. Master your exam performance by preparing strategically. Create comprehensive formula sheets, practice with mock exams, use the spread it out technique instead of cramming. Manage your time wisely during tests, and remember that your brain is an amazing tool. You just need to learn how to use it properly. This was our 9th and also final section in this video series. To wrap up the series, I have one last video where I share with you my final thoughts and emphasize important items. Let's go to the final video in this video series.